It's still unclear what Sarah Ferguson, the former Duchess of York and ex-wife of former Prince Andrew, knows. Despite their 1996 divorce, Sarah Ferguson and Andrew have continued to live together and are very cordial in public. People then assume that she must be well versed in everything, or at least somewhat so. She has lived with him since 1996 without any problems, as I mentioned. However, she suddenly traveled to Zurich to check herself into a recovery facility. And while it's okay that folks require assistance, I have a few questions. First of all, why now? Secondly, why Zurich? Her decision to attend rehab in Zurich was solely motivated by the city's stringent privacy regulations. She probably didn't want to provide an honest testimony, which is why she chose this convenient time. Due to the stringent privacy regulations in Zurich, she won't need to return to the UK for investigations or depositions. Thus, the question becomes even more compelling: what is Sarah Ferguson aware of? Fergie Time royal exclusive front page of the Sun newspaper. In the wake of her public downfall, Sarah Ferguson, the former Duchess of York, is naturally considering offers for a tell-all TV interview. He must, of course, stay on this beat because he knows that when she has the opportunity to give an interview, she might say something that we will interpret as a real answer, even though we post now it's probably going to be. This week, Sarah Ferguson is fighting to reclaim her narrative as she looks to get a new tell-all interview. There are numerous accounts of Fergie, who at first was a genuinely kind girl who was thrilled to be a part of the royal family, suddenly becoming very noticeable. Bolt the doors, double-check the windows, and possibly conceal anything delicate because Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, or perhaps more accurately the former holder of that title, is reportedly looking for a production team and a significant infusion of funds. This is UK Insider, your inside look at the drama of Britain's elite, where controversy and power frequently clash. And Fergie is the center of attention at the moment. Let's first examine her recent activities before delving into the most recent development. Living in the Mayfair Life Resort would be extremely luxurious and calming. She was most likely on the verge of a breakdown this time. I don't think they would conceal her there for no reason, therefore someone would have to be aiding her. She cannot remain on the run indefinitely. She must establish some kind of foundation somewhere. She will be asked a lot of questions, and I believe she ought to. We have located Sarah Ferguson 7 months after her last public appearance, 10 weeks after her name appeared in the Epstein files, and 73 days after her eviction from Royal Lodge. Like a notification you can't quite ignore, the red-haired royal renegade has a way of reappearing when you least expect it. She has endured more public errors than most people could. Words that are making the rounds in prominent US media circles indicate that Sarah is prepared to have an unrestrained, headline-grabbing interview. What about the stated cost? About $1.3 million. This is more than simply idle gossip. It has the power to completely upend the Windsor story. Few people anticipated this kind of return, yet even with half-covered eyes, viewers will be paying close attention. Please click subscribe before we continue. Surprisingly, many people haven't yet, and this really aids in the channel's expansion. Let's now examine why Sarah could be working so hard to get this contract. If we believe the Sun's front page, as I frequently do, she might be speaking or doing an interview. Sarah Ferguson has been given numerous chances to do an honest interview. Obviously, this comes after a long year for Sarah and Andrew, given all that has been happening, including their expulsion from Royal Lodge and the loss of their titles, as we discussed before. She has already conducted interviews, as we can see. Harry and Meghan have already conducted interviews. So should Sarah speak up? Although I don't think it's appropriate, I believe she will speak up, should she? She really needs the money, she requires the money, that's how easy it is. Since she and Andrew currently have nothing to lose, this is the situation that, to be honest, scared me the most about the royal family. They might then air out someone else's dirty laundry. I don't think it will be their own, but given the large sums of money, 6 figures to be exact, that are being offered for this interview, I'm not sure who she will talk about because she probably won't mention Andrew. Unless it's about her battle, she probably won't even discuss herself. She may discuss other. I'm concerned about royal family members being thrown under the bus. The simple explanation: she is no longer functioning within the confines of the official royal existence. Consider it, you spend years hunting the unwritten code of the monarchy if you are born into it or marry into it. Keep quiet, don't divulge anything, and uphold the image at all costs. You become less of a person and more of a perfectly crafted, tightly managed symbol. Sarah Ferguson comes next. She is the disturbance in that system, the unanticipated spark in a setting that was otherwise under control. She makes her way back into the spotlight just as things appear to have calmed down. This time, the story revolves around financial hardship. However, in her perspective, financial difficulties do not equate to daily hardships. They highlight the difficulty of maintaining a particular standard of living and expectations. However, her objectives seem to be quite obvious. Yes, money is needed, but there's also a desire to change the way her narrative is presented. American media allegedly offers huge sums of money for an exclusive interview, which is where they come into play. To be fair, her story is anything but typical. It is a blend of great drama and contemporary media spectacle, ranging from royal privilege to constant tabloid scrutiny. Therefore, the true question is not only what she will say, but also why she has decided to say it at this particular moment. By the royal family as a whole, she has no spouse. In reality, she has been a tenant for Andrew spent many years at Royal Lodge. Why shouldn't she be permitted to discuss the situation? But she's quite dangerous. She leads a lavish lifestyle. I mean, why shouldn't she be able to speak? I agree with you. She lived with Andrew until a few weeks ago, so she has lived among the royals for a long time. You know, I am aware that Andrew has been placed in a Sandringham and she has been thrown out on her own, but I simply don't think she should be speaking up. It's not appropriate in my opinion. According to insiders, Sarah believes she deserves the opportunity to share her perspective. Naturally, that is the polished version, the kind of sentence that frequently appears just before things become worse. There is nothing straightforward about the high-stakes move she is currently undertaking. Imagine it more like walking a wire without a safety net than a cautious step forward. Beatrice and Eugenie, her daughters, are on one side, each upholding their own status and unavoidably impacted by what their mother says. Prince Andrew's shadow and the issues surrounding his connections to Jeffrey Epstein are on the other side. She is navigating an exposed, complex, and unavoidable world. Exposed. Now you spend some time in your book discussing his ex-wife Sarah Ferguson, and I'm wondering if she's also in danger as a world-class grifter because Jeffrey Epstein's emails depict her acting in a way that is really abhorrent and goes beyond just the sexual stuff. For heaven's sake, she's assisting him in arranging encounters between that pedophile and her own goddaughter, as well as her own daughters. She's also telling Epstein about another woman who he might marry. She has a fantastic figure and is single. All right, marry me and we'll hire her. However, there are also the financial ties, including an email from Epstein claiming to have provided her with financial support for 15 years. Andrew. What did she do for him in exchange? Epstein was granted access to Andrew and the royal family by Sarah Ferguson. Who knows though, I mean a lot more is yet to be revealed. However, you are entirely correct, Sarah Ferguson is a material witness to the sex trafficking. She is already entering a delicate performance that is more akin to a meticulously planned ballet than a straightforward public declaration. One poor decision could have long-term repercussions. There is tremendous pressure and widespread attention. People are keeping a careful eye on her to see if she can handle everything or falter. The most contentious aspect of the narrative is the unavoidable problem. Her ties to Jeffrey Epstein are at the heart of this potentially valuable interview. This is more than a small detail hidden in the backdrop. It is a crucial aspect of the story. The scrutiny that had never completely subsided was rekindled earlier this year when U.S. officials made documents pertaining to Epstein public. The revelations, which included accounts of his financial support for her, illuminated the scope of their relationship. It's a difficult and delicate chapter that poses important queries and guarantees that everything she says from here on will be extensively scrutinized. To give you an idea, Sarah Ferguson wrote things like, "Thank you, Jeffrey, for being the brother I've always wished for. You are a legend," in her emails to Jeffrey Epstein. "I am at your service, and I truly cannot express how much I adore and appreciate your kindness and generosity. Just marry me. Additionally, some of the new information that has surfaced today concerns the point at which her relationship with Epstein started to show signs of deterioration in 2011, when she wrote him a somewhat odd message in which she congratulated him on having a baby, something we were unaware of. "Congratulations on having a baby," she says. "I didn't even know you were expecting a child, but it's quite obvious to me that you were only friends with me to gain access to Andrew, and that really wounded me more than you can imagine." You can see the kind of gushing, fawning nature of her messages to Andrew. Additionally, there are several extremely awkward instances in which she makes light of her daughter's sexual life by referencing it in her communications to him. She begs him for rent money, therefore its approach is rather blatant. However, reading all of the conversations between Epstein and Sarah Ferguson and Andrew Mountbatten Windsor also made me realize how powerful Epstein is. Here, he is the key player. "Do you want to come to Buckingham Palace? What about Windsor Castle?" they ask. He simply responds, "Yeah," offers them a time and day and proceeds. This relationship is under his control. Sarah Ferguson has consistently insisted that she was unaware of any misconduct involving Jeffrey Epstein. According to her account, she was drawn inside. Much bigger issue without properly comprehending its underlying causes. Given the scope and gravity of the dispute at hand, it's a risky stance that requires a certain amount of assurance. In addition to being dangerous, portraying herself as a victim in a case involving one of the most infamous individuals in recent memory is a tactic that draws close attention. It's difficult to persuade a worldwide audience that you were just misinformed. It's similar to saying you believed you were entering an innocuous situation, only to find out later that it was far more concerning, but you managed to stay close enough for questions to come up. Selling this story is challenging, and defending it in front of the public is even more challenging. Sarah's position hasn't changed, though. She seems determined to present her version directly, without filters or middlemen, and maintains that she did nothing wrong. It's precisely this resolve that has drawn the interest of major American streaming services. Stories of dispute and redemption, particularly those presented as personal truth-telling, captivate them. From their point of view, a multi-million-pound interview is an investment in a story that promises attention, discussion, and worldwide viewing rather than only a payday. However, there is a complexity, as is the case with most things. There are hints that Sarah is hesitant to record the interview in the US, despite rumors that she is amenable to the arrangement. The logic is simple to comprehend. Their public opinion on the Epstein case is still very strong, and there is far more severe public and media scrutiny. It's one thing to conduct an interview from the relative familiarity of the UK. Entering the United States, where the legal and cultural landscape around the matter is far more contentious, is a completely different matter. Tension is evident as a result. On the one hand, there is a desire to express oneself and be heard on a worldwide stage. Conversely, there is reluctance to confront the setting where the potential backlash might be strongest. It's similar to wanting to enter the spotlight while cautiously avoiding the strongest glare in many respects. For the first time since Andrew's arrest, Sarah Ferguson has been seen. Since being connected to the Jeffrey Epstein affair, the former Duchess of York has avoided the spotlight. She was recently seen at an Irish wellness retreat centre for the first time. Sarah, who supposedly made her own reservation. Previously seen at a spa in Zurich, Switzerland, where a week's stay costs £76,000, it has now been observed in Ireland. Since her brief appearance at her granddaughter Athene's christening at St James's Palace on December 12, Fergie has not been spotted in public. However, we now know that she is in Northern Ireland, staying at the same spa where she previously stayed in 2024. In that photo she wrote, "Sometimes things get overwhelming and I find peace in nature and the ocean." According to a royal source, Sarah likes to travel to Donegal when things get really overwhelming, and we all know that things can't get any more overwhelming for her and her family than they are right now. Although Sarah's future is now unknown, we will undoubtedly keep a close eye on her. For more, follow. This is a former Duchess who obviously wants to talk, but she wants to do it in a context that she controls and on her own terms. She's searching for the ideal deal, not just any deal. Additionally, although the reported $13 million is undoubtedly a strong incentive, music transcends financial gain. It has to do with story. She has the opportunity to change the way her narrative is presented through a well-produced interview or documentary. Rather than playing a supporting role in a debate that is pushed by others, she takes the lead and frames events from her point of view. However, that brings up an awkward issue that is being discussed in private in media boardrooms overseas, as well as in London circles. Is this a calculated return or an impractical attempt to change the past? There is a stark difference in opinion. After years of public criticism, some perceive a woman attempting to restore her reputation and speak the truth. Some contend that she overestimates the ability of a single conversation to resolve long-standing disputes and affiliations. Where you stand has a big impact on which view is more important. Her supporters portray her as resolute and fearless in confronting the myth. Critics note that her royal standing has already drastically declined, particularly after Prince Andrew lost his title as Duke of York, which unavoidably had an impact on her status as well. This is why it feels like a crucial moment. This could be her final chance to take charge of the narrative before it is irreversibly defined without her, so it's more than just another media appearance. Sarah Ferguson, who had been out of the public eye for months, was photographed at an opulent resort in Austria. She and her ex-husband Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's connections to Jeffrey Epstein are the subject of growing inquiry. The paparazzi have finally located Sarah Ferguson after she spent months trying to evade the cameras. She was photographed outside an ostentatious Austrian cabin that supposedly costs over $3,700 per night. The Sun, which posted these images of the former princess wearing a cap outside her chamber, claims that she has no intention of leaving or testifying before the U.S. Congress on her connections to the late pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. This is in spite of calls from U.S. politicians to testify. The Epstein files contain several damaging emails that demonstrate Fergie's intimate relationship with the deceased investor. Although she hasn't been charged with anything, there isn't a legal way to compel her to testify. It appears like Fergie has been residing in this chalet since February. This week, the late Queen's 100th birthday will be celebrated by the royal family, but neither Fergie nor her ex-husband, the now former prince, will be present. Andrew, because of their strong connections to Jeffrey Epstein, both were expelled from the royal family and had their titles revoked. Let's take a closer look at the real construction of this possible media storm. There are people on both sides of the Atlantic who are interested in interviewing Sarah Ferguson. British producers are also circling, knowing full well that such a sit-down would garner enormous attention and dominate headlines. When viewers stop watching, it's the kind of television moment that stops everything else. Put an end to scrolling, stop changing stations, and focus. However, the American offer is attracting attention, even though the UK market is eager. The stated amount, around $1.75 million or around one, not only is $3 million generous, it's remarkable for one interview. She is on par with international celebs and A-list celebrities whose stories are sure to garner attention thanks to that type of money. However, there are conditions tied to that price tag. That amount is not being paid by any network for a charity discussion with a soft focus. Job or children's literature, they will want answers to the questions that have dogged her for years, as well as content, details, and accountability. What was she aware of? When was she aware of it, and now how does she explain it? This degree of examination is not for the timid. Every phrase and every pause is examined in this setting. However, in an odd way, she is accustomed to it. She has navigated tabloid storms, public criticism, and reputational crises for decades. She knows what pressure is, for better or worse. The disparity between American and British media cultures is what makes this issue even more intriguing. Royal ties and the customs that surround them continue to be respected in the UK, sometimes in silence. Even those who are no longer formally affiliated with the organisation frequently function within certain imperceptible constraints. The regulations are different in the United States. Telling stories is valuable. When a story has resonance, it becomes packaged, advertised, and sold, regardless of how awkward or contentious it could be. From that angle, it's understandable that she could think America is the best place to voice her opinions. There are fewer restrictions imposed by royal etiquette, more flexibility, and a stronger desire for unvarnished, intimate storytelling. According to reports, she has even been contacting people in Los Angeles in an attempt to get introductions to media executives and documentary producers. There is less waiting and a hands-on attitude. Increased agility. And that's what really sticks out. She's not just sitting there hoping the storm goes away. The obvious question that lurks underneath all of this is that she is deliberately attempting to influence the narrative, to reclaim control over how her tale is recounted and possibly how she is remembered. How is she maintaining this lifestyle at such a tumultuous time, aside from the headlines and negotiations?